back to you, and you can almost smell. You know, our memories are deep, and you can almost smell the same smells you smelled then, have the same sensation. You know, the same knot that tightened up your heart 10 years ago, 20 years ago, just comes back because it's triggered by this location. Those of you who know what I'm talking about know what I'm talking about. And it all came back, like in her imagination. And she looked out her window. And she looked out her window and she saw literally the same spot. She asked her husband, what's going on? He said, well, it's beautiful. She looks at her window and there was a cesspool there. It was a sewage system, and it was actually quite ugly. And it flashed on her that he was not trying to actually disagree. He was describing the reality that he saw. She wanted to apologize, but he was already gone. And she shared this with Professor Yalom, Irving Yalom, about the experience. And I thought it was a magnificent illustration of the truths of life. We're driving in the same car. We're looking out of two different windows. What I see through my window is not what you see through your window. Now, I could sit my whole life and explain to you that you're wrong. And that's what a lot of husbands and wives do. You're wrong, you're stupid, it's your mother, it's your bubba, it's your zayda, it's your issues, it's your problems, it's your this. And I see it. It's not like I'm right. And they're not getting anywhere. You're not getting anywhere because you're never going to be able to really convince somebody who has a different window and sees a different reality not to be able to see out of that window. What we could do is learn about reality from that window's perspective. Respect it, validate it, and then share our perspective, and then learn to respect the fact that we look out of two different windows. It seems simple in words. In experience, it's not so simple, because my window is not the window, it's reality. It's your problem, it's not my problem. Now, this is not, of course, you have to look at every situation, what the issue is, but this is a fundamental issue. Can I really be able to at least respect the fact that you have a different window? Now, sometimes that different window is very, very problematic. It's not this discussion now, but, let's talk about mental illness for a moment. If somebody's suffering from mental illness, say psychosis or these things, they also have a different window. But you may not be able to live with that window. So it could get very sensitive. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the fact that Ein Deyaseh and Shabbos, people's realities are different. The truth is, when you're looking out of the same window, it's also two separate realities. It goes more than that. It's sometimes the same window, what I see, based on who I am. And maturity, growing up, self-development, is always about learning this. Learning it not to delegitimize my window, but to be able to expand my window, to be able to include in my horizons more people.
You started out saying truth is relative. I don't see it's relative. It's multifaceted.
Multifaceted is a good word, yeah. It's multifaceted and multidimensional. Yeah. What I meant by relative is a different person person can have his own experience. Now, if you take this to the more general way, it goes back to the mashal, the metaphor, speaking about metaphors, that really probably captures this the best, which is the metaphor, I shared this with you quite a few times probably, the metaphor with the fisherman. You remember the metaphor? Who builds his net and wants to finally ascertain how many fish and types of fish there are in the Pacific Ocean, and he lowers the net for 7 months, and he lifts up the net, and he has, all these new species of fish that nobody ever heard of. And this is, of course, only a metaphor, a parable. And he lifts up the net, and he comes out with a declaration that in the Pacific Ocean, the entire ocean, there are no fish that are smaller than 9 inches. He is the laughing stock, not only of the scientific community, and not only of the fisherman community, but of every child, because in your dining room you have a fish tank, and you have fish that are smaller than 9 inches, and you take care of them and you feed them, and they have their very nice life as fish that are smaller than 9 inches. And then, of course, they discovered where the fallacy was, where the mistake was. The mistake was he wasn't lying and he wasn't manipulating. He was describing the truth of his reality because the holes in the net were 9 inches wide. So any fish that was smaller could not be caught by the net. Now here, it's a very obvious mashal, but now we have to ask ourselves this question. What are the nets that each of us use in order to ascertain reality? I have a net. Everybody has a net. I walk around with that net. That net may not be conscious. It may be subconscious or unconscious, but I walk around with that net. And that's the net. That's the prism. That's the hashkafas olam. Those are the glasses. It's the Weltanschauung, as the Yiddishisten like to say. The Weltanschauung, the perspective that underlies all my reality. So I'm going to say there are no fish smaller than 9 inches. You know why? Because in my net there are no fish smaller than 9 inches, and I can't see them, I can't hear them, I can't touch them, and therefore they don't exist in my reality from my perspective. Of course, I have to be able to ask myself, maybe my net is defining my reality. And if my net is defining my reality, it doesn't mean it's not real in this context. It is. For this net, there are no fish smaller than 9 inches. But it would be a pity to limit all of reality to the experience of my net. What does it mean we have a net? Every one of us, based on endless causes, many of them, of course, emotional, many of them chemical, many of them psychological, nature or nurture, or a combination of another 1.1 billion things, have a particular net. We have a way that we approach reality, how we define what is normal, what is not normal, what is good, what is not good, what I like, what I don't like, what is comfortable, what is not comfortable, what is true, what is false. 50, 60 years ago in America, there were things that were called murder. Today, it's the ultimate self-actualization, freedom, right? 20, 30 years ago, there were situations that you called mishagas, mental illness, cholas. Today, it's the ultimate expression of emancipation, of diversity, of freedom of choice. And heaven forbid for somebody to disagree.
This is a little bit blurring opinions again with reality. I mean, whether
yes,
I mean,
you're right.
They're different things.
But in the person's mind, this becomes reality, and it's very hard for them to see anything else. And it's even hard for them to understand that there could be another opinion. That's my point. And maturity means the ability to be able to say, maybe my net really, really needs some adjustment. Maybe you can use some growth. Maybe I can minimize those holes. Maybe I could remove the holes, and then I can have a much better picture of what type of fish are in the sea. These things are fairly clear to everybody. It's hard to argue with it because we all know it in our own lives. Just have a 20-minute conversation with your wife about something that is meaningful and sensitive, and you'll discover it. There's a beautiful netziv. It says, Loi toiv heyoisa adam levadoi esse loi ezer kenegdoi. The truth is, the Balatanya says it in Torah Erd. He says it in spiritual language. The Netziv says it practically in marriages. What's ezer kenegdoi? A wife is defined as an ezer, a help, kenegdoi, against him. If she's a help, she's not against you. If she's against you, what type of help is she? So Rashi brings that it depends on the marriage. Yeah, zocha, loy zocha. The Netziv says, esse loy ezer kenegdoi, sometimes the greatest help that somebody can provide for you is by being kenegdoi, by offering a different opposing view, the opposition. That's the greatest ezer. Yeah.
Opposites attract.
Huh?
Opposites attract.
Opposites attract, and opposites enlighten. Of course, they can be a source of contention and conflict. You have to know how to turn the kenegdoi into an ezer, rather than the kenegdoi into the opposite of an ezer. But that takes work, because you're disagreeing with me. Sometimes husbands or wives, the first time a spouse disagrees, they become so annoyed and frustrated, she'll never open up her mouth again, because she wants shalom bayis. She keeps her opinions to herself. shares it maybe with a therapist 20 years later. The problem is who loses most out of it? He loses most out of it. His life remains a very small life because there's nobody to raise you, to challenge you. The Tiferes Shloimeh, the Radomska writes that Yaakov told Lavan, Lama rimi sani, why did you deceive me? You gave me Leah, you deceived me. It says the word rimi sani is like the word truma. Lama rimi sani, if avasastume ufgehaiben. Why did you lift me up? Leah was much, much deeper soul than Rachel. We learned the Maimar with the Balatanya that Leah is Alma Deskasya, Rachel is Alma Desgalia. Leah is a much deeper soul than Rachel. So Yaakov says, Lama rimi sani, you gave me Leah. It's like, whoa. Sometimes you have a person in your life who challenges you in a way like, I'm not ready to go so high. I'm not ready for this level of sobriety, of honesty. The Tiferes Shloimeh. Tiferes Shloimeh was a Shloimeh of Radomsk. Yeah. Lama rimi sani, from the word truma, like harama, laharim, ramal kol goyim, right? Lama rimi sani, I'm not ready to go so high. I wanted to live in a lower plane. And essentially what we're getting at is every challenge in life is called nisayon. What does nisayon mean? Nisayon is the same word like harama. Same idea in Lashon Kodesh. Arim nisi. Arim nisi. Nisi is I will raise my flag, my sign. It's raised up. Harim nisi. These are Lashonos in Tanakh. Harama and Nes. A Nes is an elevated pole, like V'sim Oisoi al Nes. Moshe was supposed to take a copper snake and put it on a pole in Parshas Chukas, right? But a miracle is not a miracle. A miracle is l'chayda nisayon. But the truth is, every challenge in life, you could look at it as you're trying to destroy me, or you're trying to lift me up. But lifting somebody up to another place is difficult. It's like a personal trainer who wants to really build muscle, or build tissue, or build your body. He wants to lift you up, but what happens? What happens is, I don't want. I want to remain in my comfort zone. So you could look at it as something that's here to crush you, or something that's here to elevate you. And it's a very, very big difference. And it's not always easy to see it that way. Because what I'm feeling is the pain. What I'm feeling is negativity. What I'm feeling is the challenge, the kinegdoi. It takes a very deep avoida, emotional avoida, to be able to say, maybe this is here to lift me up. Lamari misani, which was really the idea of Leah coming into Yaakov's life. So this is all in terms of interpersonal relationships. The truth is, though, it expands to everything. It's just here, it's easier to understand because we see it so vividly. Where it's a little more difficult to understand, but it's not really very different, is that everything is this way. Mamish, everything is this way. I mentioned this a few times. When we look at the world, we see matter. We see Geshem. That's what we see. If you look in Tanya, Shara Yichud Ve'emunah, the Svarim of Shalah, Talmidei Habal Shem Tov, etc. There's a lashon, for example, in Tanya, that if our eyes, ilu nitne rishus la'ayin liros, if the eye would be able to see correctly, you would look at every single existence, and you would see that the geshem, the material, is ayin ve'efes mamish. It's nothing. All it is dvar Hashem ha'mechayehu ha'mekaymehu. Is the divine energy that gives it life. So you read these words and you say, okay, fine. I mean, the Kozhnitz Magid, the Heilige Kozhnitz Magid, the B'Srael of Kozhnitz, the Avodas Yisrael, was on his deathbed, and he tells his son, he says, "Ich will schon nicht," in Polish, Galiciana Yiddish, "Ich will schon nicht kein Gif." By us Russian literature, we say guf. But by others, they say gif, right? The body is the gif. So he says, "Ich will schon nicht gif." I don't have a body anymore. So his son takes his hand and says, "Tata, was that's the da is the gif." Here's your body. What do you mean you don't have a body? I don't feel it. So he said these words. The tapst mit gif fills the gif. The tapst mit gif fills the gif. Translation. You're touching me with your body. You feel body. You have to look at your net. Now, what does this mean? What does this mean? So now forget religion for a moment. Well, not forget religion, but I'm saying forget a religious discussion for a moment. You'll ask any basic, you don't need postdoctorate nuclear physics or modern physics or theoretical physics or quantum mechanics that everybody gets scared of. And Stephen Hawkins said that when you speak to me about quantum mechanics, I open the drawer and I take out my gun because it's too paradoxical and my mind can't deal with it. But I'm talking basic stuff. Yeah, you were very surprised. This is a table. What? It's a table. It's a table. So when the Alter Rebbe wrote this 100 to 200 years ago, Ilu nitner reshus la'ayin lirois, you would see that it's a Dvar Hashem. It's Dvar Hashem. And he says, Ezo chachem haroya es hanoiled. It says in Gemara and Talmud, who's a chachem? Haroya es hanoiled. What does haroya es hanoiled mean? A wise person sees the future. You don't only see today. You see what's going to be in a week, in a year, in 10 years, and you make decisions based on that. Right? You don't just, right now, that you're eating, right now I want this food, I eat it. You have to see the future. So he says, Haroya hanoiled actually means he sees that which is being born. It should have been Haroya es sheyivoled, what will be born, not Haroya es hanoiled in the present. So you know what's he teach? Ezo chacham Haroya hanoiled means a chacham sees that the whole universe is being born right now. The Balatanya. The whole universe is being born. Noiled, it's being born right now. May ayin liyesh. So, often you take these things, okay. What does it mean? Today, speaking about advancing the universe, the Kalim advance every day. I told you, every new breakthrough in technology, a breakthrough in science, it advances the net of humanity. It advances the scope of humanity. When the Rashba lived in the 1200s in Spain. Rabbeinu Shlomo ben Aderes, the rabbi of Barcelona. And he wrote in Shal Shuvas HaRashba that Ein L'nimnois Teva Kayam B'chei Kaboire, which means there's nothing that is prevented in the bosom, in the realm of the Creator. Rabbi Yosef Olboy, who was a great Spanish Jewish philosopher, Sefer Yekrim, argued with him. He said, what are you talking about? Don't tell me that you could write and not write simultaneously. Ride a horse and not ride a horse. A clock should turn clockwise and counterclockwise. The same stick. That doesn't make sense. And to say that God can't do that is not an insult because it's a stupid, it's an irrational description. It's like saying God can't make that 2 plus 2 should equal 11. Of course he can't, because it doesn't. And the Rashba said, ridiculous, nimna hanimnoyus, he's prevented from preventing. Big machlokas in Jewish philosophy. Rashba and Shal Shuvas has a whole Shuvah, Tov Yud Ches, and others have disagreed with him. It comes today, 21st century, right? Anybody who even has the most basic, simplest level of what we call today quantum mechanics, and you'll open up any textbook and they'll tell you, as crazy as it sounds, and 60 years ago, many fought with it and said it's ridiculous. But subatomic particles, meaning the ultimate underlying structure of everything, has no fixed model. It moves clockwise and counterclockwise simultaneously. And what makes it fixed and limited? What makes it that fixed and limited? Our observation of it. When we look at it, we ruin it. Now, this is freaky stuff. These are atheists, Kavayachal, who say there's nothing to do with Judaism. Atheists speak like this. Well, what does it mean? You look at it, you ruin it. Why? Because your eyes can't deal with paradoxes. So there's no paradox. Where's there no paradox? Only in your eyes. Now, the ramifications of that are very profound. Now, al pi Torah, al pi Chassidus, our eyes were created by the Rebbeinu Shalom. It's not like our eyes are evil. That's not the point. The point is not to go into the world of quantum mechanics and live that way, because you can't, unless you want to be Nadav and Avihu. But suddenly we have Nimna Nimnoyis in the language of secular physics. About everything. About everything. You think the basketball, they're playing basketball, the basketball is there? On a physical level, it's there. Speak to a theoretical physicist, and he'll tell you, what are you talking about? The basketball is there, and the basketball is there. Now, it sounds very, very strange. I know. It sounds strange. It's very strange. But it's fascinating because it literally brings to life in very illustrative ways conversations and words that have been explored in the Ksavim, in the writings of the Balatanya and contemporaries and similar, that had such little tangible, concrete illustrations. So I take a look at this table, and I see a table. But bring in a microscope, and suddenly they're going to tell me, what are you talking about? This is matter? This is basically your eyes that can't deal with the fact that there are sextillion atoms. Sextillion is not a billion, and not a million, and not a trillion, not a zillion. It's one with, I don't know how many zeros afterwards, 26 zeros, whatever. You have to Google it, but it's a lot. It's things, numbers beyond our imagination, even our mathematical imagination. Atoms, and each atom is mostly empty space, 99.9% of empty space. You have the nucleus of the atom, and then you have the electron, which is circling the atom in crazy, crazy speed, and holding the atom together, and then atoms coming together to form molecules. So basically, most of the earth, I'm looking at most of everything, is 99.9% empty space. So why do I see a table? The answer is, my eyes cannot deal with such small matter. I can't deal with it. So what do my eyes do? My eyes fill up the empty space and create what's called a table, and the same my hands. So you'll say, what do you mean? But these are not atoms. This is a table, and it's true. It's true, yeah. The taps mit gif. Fills the gif. Avada.
So why when quantum mechanics says this, it's Nobel Prize celebrated, and when the Balatanya says this, religion is the opium of the masses? Why is there resistance? Why is there resistance to hear the ideas when you throw, God into the equation versus just quantum mechanics?
Because you throw God into the equation. That's the criminal act. Yeah. The Balatanya said, I'm going to be a scientist. Yeah. Freud wouldn't be considered a father of psychoanalysis. He would have been. Rabbi Yoshe Soloveitchik once said, Yad Kislev in Boston, Tavshin Chavtes, 69. He spoke for like 2 hours. And he said, Ich bin a Litvak. Ich bin a Soloveitchik. We spoke. Ich bin a Soloveitchik. Ich bin a Litvak. It was a more intimate crowd, so he was more uninhibited. Yeah, uninhibited. I don't know if he would say this. Chaim Soloveitchik's grandson, from the Geza of the Beis Halevi, the Geza of Chaim Volozhiner. But he says, but I can tell you, and I'm quoting him, I heard the tape. Azin der Rambam is nicht gewen an ish haseichel. Azoiv the Balatanya. Since the Rambam, there was no intellectual. The greatest psychologist in history. The greatest psychologist in history. And he also said, this I never knew actually, by us we never heard it, that the Balatanya went to visit the Vilna Gaon, which we know, with his friend Reb Mendel of Vitebsk, the Prioritz. So it's known that the Vilna Gaon didn't want to see them. That the Balatanya himself writes that in a letter, that he didn't want to see them. But he said in that story that the Vilna Gaon looked at the Balatanya through the door. He had some hole in the door or whatever, the people, he looked at him. And he saw what he looked like. And he said that he looks like a Malach Elikim, and if he's going to let him in and talk to him, there's no way he will not be transformed. And he jumped out the window. Rabbi Soloveitchik said he jumped out the window not to see them, because he felt he was wrong, and it's koyach, it's not the koyach of Kedusha, whatever it is. But ad kedei kach, yeah, The problem is the moment it's in the context of Yiddishkeit and God and all that. That's A, and also the language is also a different language. That's the barrier of language that our generation also has to overcome. Now, okay, so what am I left with? What am I left with?
What makes reality true?
Very good, very good. So what makes reality true? So now we have a little perspective. This is exactly what Shem Elokim is. And that's the Vart. The Vart is not there's a real world and we're living in a fake world. That's not the Vart. Al pi halacha, there was a shulchan in the Mizbeach. There was a shulchan in the Beis HaMikdash. That's a shulchan. No, it's not a shulchan. It's a bunch of atoms. There's dinim. Tefillin is tefillin. No, it's not tefillin with the hide of an animal. The whole animal is not an animal. Shem Elokim is real. Tzimtzum is real. Is it true that without Shem Elokim, beyond Shem Elokim, matter is not matter and teva is not teva? Emes. But the same God whose Havaya is also Elokim. And Havaya hu Elokim. There's an expression in Gemara, Ein loy ledayin el mashein of royas. Literally it means, a dayan is not a prophet. A dayan has to judge based on reality the way he understands it, of course without shaychet. On a deeper level it means, Ein loy ledayin mashein of royas is the fact that my eyes see this means it's the reality the Rebbeinu Shalom wants I should see. But now I have to also open my eyes and expand my eyes. So the Chassidus Magid was saying, the tops mit gif fills the gif. Of course, you touch my hand, you feel it. Take lahavdil, take a horse into a symphony. You ever tried to do it? Caligula appointed his horse on the Roman Senate. You know that. One of the Roman emperors, Caligula, Meshuganat Tzedreta, Chayla Nefesh, had his horse on the Senate. He was one of the senators, one of the leaders of Rome, because it was his horse. They said there was once a Polish Rebbe, he was on a train and he met a Yid, and he tells him, "Was Shalom Aleichem, was tut mit was handelt er?" What type of business? So the Jew says, "Ich handel mit Pferd. I deal with horses." So the Rebbe says, "Punkt wie ich," just like me. But this was a literal horse. You take a horse into a symphony and into an opera, and it's a beautiful symphony, 600 musicians playing, and people's hearts are melting if they are sensitive to music. And in the middle, the horse gives a grunt. Now, if you'll be able to have a conversation with that horse, how do you think the horse is going to describe the symphony? The tops mit gif fills the gif. Somebody once asked the Baal Shem Tov why by davening his Talmidim would sing and dance. He says, "Was tanzt man?" So the Baal Shem Tov told him, the Degel Machane Ephraim brings this his grandson. It's a very sharp answer. He told him that there was once a man walking in the street and he saw people dancing and dancing and dancing. There was a musician playing beautifully and it was so heartwarming. People were just dancing and singing around him. And this man started to say, they're all meshiga, they're crazy people. It's in the marketplace, was Tanzman. The tragedy was that this person was deaf. He was deaf. So he said, if you're deaf to the music of the universe, there's no reason to dance. If there was Hashem besimcha, boy lefon of Bernana, du'u, ki Hashem hu elikim. But if you don't hear that music, it's not, the tops mit gif fills the gif. And it's not, the guf is not emes. Of course the gif is emes. If the gif wasn't emes, Dr. Michelle wouldn't have a job. You come to him and say, what guf? What guf? Was v'nishmartem oidlen av sheseichem. All the halachas that are connected to the body, most of the mitzvahs, it's because, not because Elikim is not emes, chas v'shalom. Elikim is emes. What does Elikim do? It channels Yudke Vavke into Kalim that shape and mold the energy and turn them into models. And based on the Keli that I have, that's how I define the reality. And it's true in that Keli. Even though with different Kalim, with a different net, it would be a different reality. If I would have lenses of Olam HaYitzirah, not of Olam HaAsiyah, I wouldn't see matter. I would see spiritual energy. Why? Because matter is spiritual energy. But our eyes cannot deal with it. So what do our eyes do? Our eyes put it all together and say, this is a solid table because my hand decided that. And you know what? If I bang it hard enough, I'm going to hurt myself. It's atoms. The answer is, what is hurt? Hurt is also the brain told you that you were hurt. What's hurt? The brain told you were hurt. Boom. I didn't do it hard enough. Maybe with my knuckles.
Yeah, but the people listening in the cars got startled when you did that.
Okay.
My experience.
That's why for control of pain, I mean, whether it's a woman in labor with the whole Amaz method or pain control, where people work on people's minds because that can
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
Question?
You mentioned yesterday that there's something called blindness from hysteria. Hysterical blindness. What is it? It's a tragic situation, but it teaches us so much. A veteran comes back from war. He was in Vietnam, he was in Iraq, he was in Afghanistan. He saw horrible things, which many of us, Baruch Hashem, we never have to see. He saw horrible scenes. You know, Jews who went through the Holocaust describe sometimes things they saw. They saw. And the trauma is so deep, he becomes blind. He's not blind. You go to every doctor in the world. The brain functionality is perfect. Functionality of the eye is perfect. There's no biological reason to explain his lack of vision. Absolutely nothing. Now I'm going to be deaf. No, I meant to be able to concentrate. I didn't mean that. Yeah. Right? So why can't he see? So here's the answer. A doctor who is never trained about emotions, about trauma, all he knows is the body. The body's a machine. So imagine you're looking at a machine and you fix everything in the machine and the machine is perfect and it's not functioning. The body is a machine. The machine is perfect. We know about what the eye has to have. The nerves and the photoreceptors. The eye is an incredible nivra. It's unbelievable. It's working. It's perfect. It's functional. The person doesn't see. There's a whole other reality. What's the other reality? The other reality is, because of his trauma, his mind chose, or didn't choose, but was compelled to say, I will not see anymore anything. Now, he doesn't make a decision. He can't see. The brain is trying to protect him. The brain is not trying to ruin his life. The brain knows what he went through. So the brain says, you know what? We don't see anymore. We don't see. There are those who go to Mecca and then blind themselves physically so we know that they don't see. And then there are those that because of the inner trauma that you can't see physically, you don't see it. But it's more powerful than everything else. And therefore this person says, I can't see even though you could. What is it? My brain's reality, and it's as real as anything else. Helen Keller once said the only thing that's worse than being blind is not having vision. What's vision? Vision is the deeper eyes. The deeper eyes. Havayahu Elikim. So now I come back to the story I told you, yeah?
Does the idea of think good and it will be good factor into this? Because
Excellent.
there's a net, and that is my perspective.
Excellent.
And yet, if I focus on the pain from Vietnam,
Excellent.
I'm going to draw that. Is that
Excellent. That's the depth of the expression, which I think comes from the Tzemach Tzedek, but it was said by many tzaddikim. Tracht gut wird sein gut. Think good and it will be good. So we often say, why not? What do you tell the guy? Think bad? Let him think good. But then he should have said, Trach gut. He didn't say, Trach gut wird sein gut. What does this mean? It means our thoughts of reality actually very often can affect the real reality. As one physicist once said, very powerful, the laws of nature are not fixed in stone. They're fixed in the mind. Or Max Planck, matter, consciousness is not a derivative of matter. Matter is a derivative of consciousness. Expand your consciousness, and you're seeing a different reality. Or I have to go back to the Kazhin Samagid. The taps mit gif, fills the gif. What if ich can tappen with a different keli? I'll see something. If you want the most simple example, I have a little experience with this one. I can't say I have experience with everything else. I have experience. Two people are sitting at a shiur. One person is bored out of his wits. He's like, when is this going to be told? It's like, ugh. You think I can get out with nobody noticing me? Is it going to be uncomfortable? Should I leave? Why did I come here? Right? The other person is sitting at the shiur and hopes that it never ends. And words are like tchiyas hamesim for him, like opens himself up. It opens him up to places that he was always yearning to be. They're both hearing the same words. They're in the same room. They're both fine and intelligent people. What is it? One person, it doesn't mean anything to me. My kalim, it doesn't mean anything. You're not giving me anything that is meaningful to me. You're just boring the wits out of me. I'll text, I'll do this. You're not stimulating me. I don't have the kalim to even hear what you're saying. It just doesn't mean anything to me. There's a person sitting here in the room who shared with a mentor of his that he comes to these shiurim. And this person said, I don't understand. You can't understand any of these things. Like, learn Mishnah Brura, learn Halacha, learn Gemara, learn something, learn Chumash, learn... These are not things. A few Jews, some with Kabbalah, with Eidos Achaim, they can understand it. It's not his fault. In his net, there's no such a reality. And it's not about blame, it's not about judgment. You have to know where your kalim are. It's called opening your kalim. So now I come back. I don't know how to deal with time. Time is also not so real. But go tell that to your boss. Go tell to your boss. Time, yeah, from our perspective. Einstein said, and nobody understood, time is relative. Yeah. The problem is the paycheck is real. The paycheck is real. Maybe not, I don't know. A Yid came to the Balatanya and he said, he gave a lot of tzedakah for poor people. He said, alts, for kovid, and for sipuk hanefesh. I like it. I do it for me. I don't. So he said, okay, but you did giving tzedakah. The Gemara says in Psachim we learn. So he said, yeah, but it's nishmat emes, alts mit sheker. It's nothing true about it. I make believe I care, but it's not true. It's all false. So he went into a dveikus. And he came, so to speak, opened his eyes and he said, Emes. Aber de Breut, was the kind erst mit deiner Geld, is a Emes a stickel Breut. And the milk is Emes a milk. The milk is real. The bread is real. Your issues, your ego, okay, you have to work on it. But this kid gets bread from your money. The bread is real. Yeah. It's a very important idea because Yiddishkeit is always Oiris Bekalim. Another Aviyu bekarvasam lifnei Hashem vayamusu. Another Aviyu didn't want Shem Elokim. They didn't want Simtzum. They didn't want matter. You don't want. The Orach Chaim says in Parsha Shlach, they didn't want matter. They didn't want it. They wanted to go to the subatomic particles. Then they wanted to go to quantum mechanics. They said, forget it. I just want the Dvar Hashem. And the Dvar Hashem Gufa is also Elokim. The Dvar Hashem Gufa is tzimtzum after tzimtzum after tzimtzum. The Dvar Hashem that creates Olam Hasiya is not the Dvar Hashem that creates Olam Abriya, Olam Atzilus. The Dvar Hashem itself, spirituality itself, has endless levels. The Gemara says in Maseches Chagiga, it has endless levels. So I shared with you that there's a professor in McGill University on neuroscience. His name is Rabbi Brower. I once read an article. He said when he was a child, he saw a cartoon. The cartoon was the Roadrunner, right? You remember? This roadrunner, this clever roadrunner, is fighting with this coyote, and and at one point, the roadrunner is running away from the coyote, and the coyote is determined to chase it, and they're coming to a cliff, and the roadrunner hides behind a rock, and the coyote is a little dumb and doesn't realize what's happening, and he jumps off the cliff, chasing. You know, when you're so angry, and you just chase and chase and chase, huh? Yeah. Keeps on running, yeah. The Stipler Gaon once said, it says by Tzvardeya, that there was one frog, yeah, and they struck it to kill it, and each time more frogs came out. So Stipler Gaon said, why didn't they stop hitting it? Why didn't they stop hitting it? Yeah? He said the pshat is, when you're so angry, you'll destroy yourself as long as you can destroy the frog that you hate. You know that by hitting it, you're getting much more frogs. But when you're so angry, you will destroy yourself just to be able to take revenge from the frog. Yeah? Important observation in life. So the coyote says, I'm just going to get this roadrunner, I don't care. And he's not cognizant. And he runs off the cliff and he's chasing the coyote, of course, in mid-air. I mean, the roadrunner in mid-air. And the roadrunner is by the rock laughing, ha, 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 ha. And at some point, the coyote is like, where is the roadrunner? This is all a cartoon, a child's cartoon. Don't, yeah. And he, huh? A marshal, yeah. Alt is a marshal. And then the coyote looks and turns around and sees the roadrunner waving. And the coyote sees this air, and then the coyote looks down and sees the abyss under it, and it gives a scream, and it starts falling. And Dr. Brower writes, he finished the article, he says, I didn't realize as a 9, he was a secular boy, Boston kid. As a secular boy going Sunday afternoon to watch cartoons, I didn't realize I just got my first shiur in Chassidus. I just got my first shiur. What's the point? What's the real point? The point is that what made the coyote fall was the conviction in my mind that I have to fall. How could I not fall? This is inexplicable. As long as he didn't know that he has to fall, as long as his mind didn't tell him, this is crazy, it wasn't crazy. The mind told him that it's crazy, it became crazy. The mind said it's impossible. The mind said, this is reality. This is reality. If this is reality, I am defined by reality. And therefore I have to fall. What's the idea of tracht gut wird sein gut? Tracht gut wird sein gut means you could be miracle-minded. What does it mean, miracle-minded? Let's talk about Kriyas Yamsuf for a moment. What happened by Kriyas Yamsuf? Now this is very subtle. It's subtle. And I'm not telling you to try this at home, just because you heard a shiur. But it's important to understand. We look, the sea split. It's much deeper than that. If you look in Kriyas Yamsuf, I'm going to finish with it, I know how late it is. It says, V'yavoyu b'nei Yisrael b'soich hayam b'yabasha, which makes sense. Go into the Yam, but it's going to be Yabasha. At the end of the shiur it says, Kivasus pari b'nei Yisrael holchu v'yabasha b'soich hayam. So the Noam Elimelech brings, why does he change? And he says the point of Kriyas Yamsuf was not to go into the sea. Yes, that's what happened. That wasn't the point. The point was Uvnei Yisrael holchu vayabasha. When you're walking on dry land, it should be b'toich hayam. That the miracle of Kriyas Yamsuf should be bayabasha. You're going to leave the Kriyas Yamsuf. Life is going to go back to normal. You're not going to be walking in water. You're going to be walking on dry land. That should be the same hergish of b'toich hayam. What does this mean? What this means is, when we come to water, we say, water is water. Fire is fire. Because my mind defined teva, it becomes teva. For Avraham Avinu, fire was not fixed, and water was not fixed. Misha Omar l'shemen v'yadlik, yoyma l'chaymetz v'yadlik. So we say, oh, it's crazy stuff. I'm not Reb Chanina ben Dosa. Mistake. Again, I'm not telling you to try it. I don't do this at home. Because you're either real or not real. But it's important at least to open our minds to it. Reb Chanina ben Dosa lived with this. It wasn't a shiur by him. He lived with this. Misha Omar l'shemen v'yadlik, yoyma l'chaymetz v'yadlik. When he looked at shemen, he didn't see the shemen as a fixed reality that is defined, because he understood that is the laws of nature which are not fixed in stone, they're fixed in our mind. Rabbi Chaim Mendeisa saw the Misha Omar. What's Misha Omar? Misha Omar is the Dvar Hashem, the divine energy that makes the Chaymas. Makes the Shem. Misha Omar l'Shem v'yadlik yom l'Chaymas v'yadlik. When they stood by Kriyas Yamsuf, the miracle of the Yamsuf wasn't the water. The miracle of the Yamsuf was v'yiso. It was their mind. That was the much bigger miracle. The mindset changed. It's a mindset not of Teva. It's a mindset of Havayu Elokim. But Mela, the water could split. The water could taka split.
And that's why Rasa Shifta was so unique.
Zekeli vanveyo. Zekeli vanveyo. Zeh. Maribetz boy voymer zeh. So you say, what do you mean? But Teva is real. Yes. It's real because of the Tzimtzum of Elokim. Every Nisayan. So Avram Avinu, when he stood in front of fire, it's very hard for us again to relate to it. Well, it's fire. It's fire. But for Avram, this wasn't a complicated sheer. This was reality by him. It was a Dava Pashut by him. It's a Nisayan because he lived in the real world. He didn't live.
He was hoping or striving to redefine fire through his dveikus. That's
because he was so dovuk with the source, but Mela, fire didn't burn. Because the laws of fire burning are the result of reality being fixed as a result of how I ascertain it.
which is why in Parshas Ve'era, the Baal Shem can actually say to Moshe that what happened until now is B'derech HaTeva. And they ask, but Avram Avinu was saved for the Kivshin Eish. That also is B'derech HaTeva, the way Avram was redefining Teva at that moment.
What does this mean in our life? He says, Lefi Erkoi, a person Lefi Erkoi. It means, whenever you see a reality, don't allow the reality to define you. You define the reality. A person sees an obstacle. A person sees an Nisayan. All an Nisayan is, it's an opportunity for a miracle. When a person doesn't get Nispal from the Tzimtzum, from the Helam, to say this is a real concealment. This is going to break me. What makes it break me is because I believe it's going to break me. I say it's a Hester, it becomes a Hester. It's not a Hester. In my mind, it's a Hester. That's Pshat Havayu Elokim. Havayu Elokim means to be able to be a miracle-minded person. To be able to look at reality not from a fixed, rigid model, but rather to be able to appreciate the emes. And the emes is that it's Havaya coming through Elokim. And therefore what makes it fixed is my perception of it. Change your mind, change your find. Okay. Lamari Misani. Mike of the Gavart, huh? Huh?
You said 2 weeks of Shabbos.
Yeah, Rama.
He raised me.
He raised him. Lamari Misani.
So the Yisod by Moshe really was the same Yisod by Moshe.
Yeah.
Avram was really the
Yeah.
same Yisod as Rabbi.
Yeah.
Seeing
Yeah. And because it was so real by him, it became real. In other words, we could do this in a shear, but it's a shear. The bottom line is fire. I'm not going into fire. It was real by him. Havayu Elokim. And because it was real, the fire was not a fire that burns. Because B'tzad Shem Havaya, you don't have these fixed models. It's divine energy. Watch divine energy destroy you. What do you mean watch it? Because it's fire. Who decided it's fire? My mind. Because I take a live in Elokim. What if a person verstehst Isaac? But I wish I can help us experience this, but I could talk about it. What should I tell you? I mean, it's a word from the Baal Shem Tov, also moide de kavort. You know the word, yeah? Huh? Yeah, he said as yed the yid with the koyach hamuna can gain avasa. So what is he talking about? So it's another Baal Shem Tov thing, you know, together with the wagon traveling, flying, together with the balagola falling asleep, and it's, you know, these stories that apparently are there to entertain the kids. It's a big mistake. That's why I once told you the greatest miracle of the Baal Shem Tov was the Baal Shem Tov. It was his mind. But you can't make jokes with this. It's either you're real, it's not real. It wasn't an Inyan. Mayim has Hagbola. Why does Mayim have Hagbola? That's what Shem Alekim does. Let's say there was no Shem Alekim. What would Mayim look like? It doesn't. It's not the fun. It doesn't have the schalkus. Doesn't have the rigidity of Teva. So do I drown in Mayim? Yeah, of course I drown in Mayim. But what if I can really, really be able to see that in the Mayim? Havayahu Alekim. Then it's completely different. The chiddush here is that every nisayon in life is trying to help me get to Shem Havaya by breaking through the husk and being megala that inyan, by showing that it's not a hester. And that's what it means to do miracles in your own life. I don't know that we're shaykh to make miracles, Avram Avinu's miracles, or Kriyas Yamsuf, because we're taka missing that emunah. We're taka missing it. Taka, if you have it, you have it. But you can't preach it. You have it or you don't have it. But what it does, what it really relates to a person's life is the idea, for example, I can't do something. I can't be a happy person. I can't have a good marriage. I can't be an inspired person. I can't. Those words I can't are real only because I say them. Because I believe them. Because I believe the Hester is a real Hester. And I give legitimacy to it. And the emes is Ein Shum Hester Klal. The Bazil did the Herst. The Chtav Mashav. Kabbalah Sal Malchus Shamayim means freeing yourself from all bias, from all perceptions. The opposite of Kabbalah Sal, what many people think, to bring you down. Yeah. Chaim v'levracha. Chaim v'levracha. Okay, let me learn a bit of Gemara.